Hello, I've just bought this beautiful 2004 Mercedes ML 350. I've had half an eye on these cars for quite a long time. I think they're old school, I think they're basic and lovely and charming, and yeah, I've literally just bought it. I paid just under £2,000 for it, 178,000 miles. It's been fairly well looked after, it's got a fairly decent service history. I'm going to drive it back now to Cornwall from Totnes, where I picked it up. I bought it from a guy who is very involved in the classic car world. He was selling it on behalf of someone else who's kind of got to a stage in their life where they're too old to drive, which is a real shame, horrible thing to hear, but luckily I managed to get hold of this lovely car. It's not perfect, there's a bit of wear on the seats. I will give you a proper walk around the car later on when I get home. It's a beautiful colour, it's a really dark blue, it's described as black blue. But yeah, I'm going to take you on a bit of a ride and see how we go. So yeah, first impressions, it's so kind of Mercedes and it's just so lazy. It's everything requires nothing sensitive. The throttle needs to be pressed almost the whole way down before it starts moving. The brake pedal as well needs to be pressed hard. Everything needs to be done firmly. It's the complete opposite to my Tesla, which is kind of why it appeals as well. The Tesla is obviously electric, it makes no noise. You know, I love the Tesla for what it does, but I am a petrol head and I love big petrol engines. This is a 3.7 litre, it's about 230, 240 horsepower, V6, and it's just lovely. It's actually really quiet. I'm beginning to wonder, in fact, at 60 miles an hour, if it's almost as quiet as the Tesla, to be fair. It might even be slightly quieter. It's really refined. It drives like a bit of a boat, if I'm honest. And you know, in time that may irritate me slightly, but to be fair, you just adjust your driving style. I just feel like driving much more relaxed and sedately, which is good. I'm going to be ferrying the kids around, I'm going to be taking the dogs around in the car, so I don't want to be flying around at silly speeds anymore anyway, you know. Also, I'm probably not going to get much more than 20 to the gallon from this beautiful car, although it does have an LPG system fitted. It's the more expensive LPG system, which apparently works really well, but I can't seem to find anything online around whether LPG even exists anymore. I think it does, well, I know it does, to be fair, but I can't see any petrol stations particularly near me in Cornwall that provide it, so whether I get to use that or not, I don't know. If I take it on the occasional journey up country, then I'm sure I'll be able to find an LPG station somewhere. I love it, it's old school. Heated seats seem to work, aircon seems to be working okay as well, stereo works.
And it'll be around about that time.
Mercedes-Benz, I love it. Looks like I've got a self-dimming rear-view mirror, which is good. There's no sunroof, which is a little bit of a shame, but I'm not too worried about that. It also means I've got a bit more headroom, to be fair, I think. In fact, there's plenty, which is nice. I've got a glass roof on the Tesla, I've got a glass roof on my Peugeot 3008 as well, and they're lovely, but to be fair, this is fine, actually. I'm hoping it's just going to be a nice, solid, reasonably reliable car, I hope. Why you would buy something that's 20 years old with 178,000 and expect it to be reliable maybe is a little bit foolish, but I'm hoping we'll just drive it gently, change the oil, look after it. Hopefully it'll look after me. I'm really hoping. I like the old man style of it, I just do. And it's one of those few cars that's actually shell bolted onto the chassis, which is quite old school and apparently quite good for durability and off-road, and quite easy to work on apparently. So I'm hoping, fingers crossed, if there's anything that needs doing, it won't be too crazy. I'm yet to find the right driving position. I must say I'm a little bit uncomfortable in this position. I need to be a bit lower, I think, somehow. Not forward, lower. Okay, that's all right. That's not too bad. It's like yeah, that's all right actually. As long as I can rest my elbow and just rest my fingers on the wheel when I'm cruising along, that's fine. The steering is literally the complete opposite to the Tesla. The Tesla's rack is overly quick. It feels like you're driving a go-kart. You touch it and it wants to go anywhere, you tell it. And that's not always a good thing, I don't think. It's kind of good, but it's a bit over the top, I would suggest. As far as I'm concerned, if Porsches don't do that and BMWs don't do that, then there's no reason to do it, really. But it gives it a certain zesty kind of energy, I suppose, whereas this car is the complete opposite. You can kind of wiggle the steering and not much is happening at all. It's nice and light though, which is good. I'm sat at 60 and it just feels fine. It's got that V6 hum. It's gentle, it's not anything in your face. It just reminds you that you're not in a dirty, clattering diesel. It's lovely. I don't think I'd ever want to do any more than 70. That just feels quite nice. I'm keeping up with people. I'm overtaking a few. I'm probably doing about 15 to the gallon. No, hopefully a bit better than that. Hopefully. I'm going to treat her to some super unleaded, some Optimax or something. I think that does cars like this good to be run on decent stuff. This is pretty much the original Chelsea tractor. Mercedes obviously did the G-Wagon before this, and people love the G-Wagon nowadays because it's different, it's a bit boxy and kind of military, sort of militant looking, I suppose. But this came in, they brought this in a bit more smooth edge because Mercedes could see what was coming in terms of the SUV boom. More rounded looking, more friendly looking, yummy mummy type cars for the school run. And this is one of the first. And actually the build quality for Mercedes was considered to be a bit shit, and I can see that, to be fair. The plastics are very shiny and hard. But, you know, 178,000 miles, it's endured pretty well. You know, the upside of these hard, cheap plastics is that they last a long time. So I can live with that, really. It's certainly shiny in here though. It's shiny and a bit beige, but I kind of like it. It's characterful. I'm interested to see what my wife says. I think she's going to be slightly scathing, but I think she'll come to realise that it's quite practical when she sees the 7 seats and the space in the boot. Did I sound convincing then? Or am I trying to convince myself? No, I love it. I really don't want to tempt fate because I hate saying this about older cars, but at the minute it doesn't feel like there's any. I so often find, even in much newer cars, that the suspension is kind of fidgeting around and the car's kind of moving around beneath you, and this isn't really doing that for such an old car, such a high mileage car. It's not really doing it. And you might say, well, that's because you can't feel anything because it's so numb, or maybe, but it does give at least a sense that things are fairly solid. It's quite nice. Someone's put Bosch windscreen wipers on there. That's a nice sign. They look quite good. Could do a bit of painting, maybe on a couple of the chips, just to make it look a bit newer. It's a classic though, isn't it? It's 20 years old. You know, I've had older cars before. I ran a BMW 545i for a few years. That was a 2004. I bought that about 110,000 on the clock and took it up to 195. I think it was 197 before I moved it on. That did feel a lot more modern than this, I have to say, for the same age car. The BMW are more space age, Mercedes are more elegant and classic, I think. I have to say, in the short time I've driven it, I love it. It's not a driver's car. If you like driving something sharp, it's not that. It's very, very wallowy and boat-like, but I don't mind that. It's a 4x4. It's an old school 4x4. I'm hoping it will be capable in, you know, dirty, muddy, horrible conditions and stuff like that, and rocking up on a school run, putting the dogs in the boot, going to the tip and stuff like that. I'm not going to thrash it around. I've got a 450 horsepower electric car for that. It does make me wonder though about a nice exhaust, whether we could free up that V6 sound a little bit, I have to say. It's almost the complete opposite to what I imagine this sort of car being. It's not an AMG, you know, and kind of all the better for it in some ways, but I suppose that nice burble would sound quite good, wouldn't it? But apparently the 5-speed auto is reasonably strong, I hope. Again, I don't want to hex anything, but apparently when they came out, they bought the high-powered AMG cars out, they tended to use the older gearbox because it was a bit stronger for the torque levels, rather than the sort of 7 speeds, so that gives me a little bit of comfort, potentially. have to say, I've always found that whatever I read in a car review, or maybe see on a YouTube review, times that by about 10 and you'll be somewhere there. So the very short space of time I've had to look into these cars, they have been saying, you know, the plastics are cheap and this and that. And yeah, I didn't. They're absolutely right, but you kind of have to times that by a certain amount, like I say, to really appreciate it. It's not quite as big as I thought it would be, which in some ways is a good thing. You don't really want a tank to be driving around in. It does. I am high up, to be fair, significantly higher than I am in the Y, which is nice. But to look at the car from the outside, it actually felt quite small, which is no bad thing, really. British roads aren't really designed for huge cars. But I'm sat up at a decent height, actually. I feel taller than just about everything else I'm coming across. I love the colour. I think the colour is an absolute gift. I'm not normally that bothered about the colour of cars, but this dark blue is great. You might call it doom blue, I suppose, but it's just quite classy. It's on an old car. It's nice to have something a little bit different. I just came this way on the train. I'm going back. I find it so interesting with cars when you're passionate about buying something, you've got it in your head and you look at it on Auto Trader or whatever, and you look at the photos, you imagine having the car on your driveway and then you're in it and it's yours. I really like that, because it is a bit of a process to go through. You've got to find the car, you've got to do a bit of research on it, you've got to trust the person you're buying from it by speaking to them on the phone, you've then got to travel to go and get it, you then got to visually look at the car, test drive it, convince yourself that you're making the right decision, even if it isn't a big money one. You know, no one wants to throw money away. I paid $1,950 for this, but can I afford to throw £2,000 away? Of course I can't. No, £2,000 is £2,000. So I'm hoping it does me at least a year, and even better if it does more than that. And I don't mind spending a little bit of money on minor maintenance to keep it going as well. If it needs oil changes and stuff like that, then absolutely fine.
Love it.
Do I get a Costa? Yeah, that's probably better than the Dart, isn't it? Mercedes now, I've got to be a bit classy. Classy. Oh, I felt a little bit of a knock. What was that? It's like we're at sea. Love it.